Okay, perfect. I got it. So, hi, thanks, Edgar, for the introduction. My name is Francis, and I am going to walk you through this demo. So, again, if you have any questions, you can ask them during the presentation or after the presentation. So, what we're going to do is that I'm going to show you the application from a preparer and an approver point of view. So we are going to see the entire process of how to do a reconciliation. We'll also go a little bit into the task module and into the matching module. So as you can see, Blackline is a software as a service. So the only thing we will need to access Blackline is an internet browser and an internet connection. So that basically means that you can access Blackline pretty much from anywhere in the world. So I'm going to log in as Kim Wilson into one of my demo instances. And we are already in Blackline. So as you can see, this is my main page. I have multiple dashboards within the system, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about these. So in here, I have my different products or modules within the system. We're going to go through the accounts reconciliation, task management, and matching. In this case, I'm going to provide you with a very high level summarized view because we have a very limited time. But once again, if you want to further detail anything that I'm showing on screen, just let me know and we can dive a little bit deeper into that specific part. As you can see, apart from these three modules, there are also other modules, and we can provide you with information if you want about these. And we also have a reporting module. And in this case, apart from showing you the modules, in here in my main dashboards, I have all of my different periods. So once I start using Blackline, I can just navigate between the different periods already on that I already have set up. And in here, you can see that I have different roles within the system. So in this case, we're going to focus mostly on the role of preparer and approver, and also an optional reviewer. These three roles are pretty much defined with they already come with an integrated workflow within the system. So we are going to see how an account reconciliation, for example, is prepared, and then it can be either approved and it can be either reviewed or um, as an optional as an option. And in this case, we have other roles in the system, and these roles pretty much just depend on what you do within the company. So we have multiple roles for multiple reasons. We have administrator roles, we have auditing roles, and we also have some of these managerial roles, which are pretty much are more focused on the team. So we have someone else joining us, or okay.
Yeah, hi, this is Jim Doyle of Smart
Oh,
Solutions.
hi, Jim. Okay.
Hi, guys. I apologize. My flight got delayed. I'm kind of stuck at the airport in Miami. So.
It's okay. So,
Hi.
okay, I'm gonna continue with this, and so in this case, right now, just stating again, but we are mostly going to focus on the preparer and the approver role right now. So I'm going to close this. And now I'm going to walk you through a little bit of this dashboard. So in here we have some company news. As you can see, it's pretty much in different languages. So that means that Blackline can support up to 15 different languages within the system. So it pretty much depends on what language you have set up on your internet browser. So if you have your browser in Spanish, it's going to be displayed in Spanish. If you have it in English, it's going to be displayed in English. In this case, we also have the account certification status and my task certification status. These real-time dashboards in here give everybody pretty much immediate visibility into any completed and outstanding items. We can filter them by location or even by a due date. So in here, you can see that I have a total of 50 accounts that have been assigned to me, and I can see at which stage they are currently on. So I can see that I have not prepared 30 of my 50 accounts. Five of them have been rejected and I need to redo them. I have one account that has been certified by the system, and I will go into this in a little bit. I have one that has been prepared, and you can pretty much just drill down into any of these as you see. And we also have a dashboard for all of my tasks within the system. And once again, I can also drill down into any of these. So this basically covers this main page. Now I am to go into my accounts reconciliation module. So the accounts reconciliation module in Blackline, it pretty much just provides a centralized platform to perform all accounts reconciliations. It comes with standardized templates. It comes with integrated workflows to prepare these reconciliations. These workflows include the preparation, approvals, and even reviews of these reconciliation. We can put links within the account where it can link to the different policies and procedures of your specific company. And we can even store all of the supporting documentation of all of these accounts. And we will see that in a little bit. So as you can see here, this is my main page. Each of these lines pretty much represents a different account reconciliation that I need to do, or that I can just get to see. So you can see that in this column I have my status. I can see which have not been prepared, which have been rejected, and which, for example, have been certified. So I have an option to set up some auto certification rules, which will take some of these low risk accounts and will pretty much complete the entire workflow for me. So, for example, one of these rules that we have set up in here is that if my bank balance for one account is same as my GL balance, it can be auto certified. Another rule that I set up is that if an account is identified as a zero balance account and it hasn't have any type of activity or movement, it can also be auto certified. So this way, it will pretty much just take away some of this repetitive process that we do during all of these monthly closes, and it will automate it for the users so the users can actually analyze what matters during the close. So in this case, you can see that we have different fields in here. If I want to filter within these fields, I can do so, and it will filter between all of my accounts. And you can see that I also have a description, geo balance, and I can pretty much just customize this view in here as I see fit. So as you can see, I have my main view in here, but I can have multiple views where I can just organize how I want to see all of my accounts. So in this case, I'm going to enter this first account in here. I'm going to click the edit button. And you can see that this is a bank account. So if I wanted to see a little bit more detail about this bank account, I can just press the magnifier and I can see more details about the account. So for example, I can see if this account, what the frequency of this account is, who it is assigned to, when it was certified, and by who. I can also see I have a link to my company policies. I have spaces for my purpose and procedures. So this also means that if an auditor were to were to be added into the system, they would also have all of this information at hand. So in this case, let's scroll a little bit. There we go. So in this case, this is a bank account. So I do get different I do get different layouts or templates within the system, and we are taking a look at a bank at a bank template. So as you can see up here, we have a space to input our bank balances. In this case, we can have a process that can be automated via an FTP folder where we can import these bank balances, or a user can just manually import the bank balance in here. Once we take a look in here, you can see that I have a section where I can add all of my bank items. I have a section in here where I can add all of my GL items. And what Blackline does is that it compares my bank balance. It adds or takes away the bank and the supporting items, and it compares them against the GL balance within the system. And what it does is that once that calculation is done, it provides me an unidentified difference. In this case, I've already went ahead, I took the trouble and made this account reconciliation. Or we will go into one of these items in a little bit. But so I don't have a difference at the moment. In this case, also the GL balance that we have in here, this GL balance can be either manually imported into the system, or we can set up an FTP folder and we can automate this process where the GL balance will be automatically imported to Blackline. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to go into one of these bank items just so that you can see a little bit more detail about this. What we were looking was a summary view. In here we can see the details that pretty much make up that subtotal. And as you can see, I have different types of aging within the system. So it takes my origination date and where I input this item into the system, and I can have different aging buckets. So that means that I can create reports based on this aging. I can also create reports based on the class of the item, for example. And I can have a complete view of my account reconciliations within one report because I have all of my accounts within Blackline. So I'm going to go back real quickly.
So Francis,
Yes.
just to clarify, so these
Okay.
items, if you go back to the reconciliation, so these are the items that are in the bank, on the bank statement, but not in the GL.
Yes. In
These
this
are like
case,
bank
yes.
fees,
Yes, these
deposits in
are.
transit.
Yes, you are correct. These up here are the ones that are within my bank and not in my GL. And in this case, these would be the ones that are on my GL balance, but not on my bank statement.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so in this case, for example, a supporting item would be a transaction that was made in error this account. So we could identify those, and then if we were to run a report, we could set it up as we can set a specific class that's called required adjustment, and it will identify those errors in a report. Okay, and but this case is because we are exploring a bank account. So yes, that is why I get the two different spaces in here for bank items and my GL items. Okay. So once I have identified these items, and as you can see, I have the option to import items. So that means that I can either manually add these items one by one, or I can manually import them into the system. And by manually importing them into the system, that means that I can just have an Excel sheet and I can import multiple items into my reconciliation. And I also have the option to export these items. So you will see that we have the export button in multiple places. So that means that every time that you see the export button or a little Excel icon or even the word Excel, that means that what's on screen, it's going to be downloaded and opened in an Excel document. Okay. So if we scroll down, we have other sections where I can add comments. I can also add any type of supporting documentation. So Blackline doesn't limit you. So in the formats that you have to upload these documents, so you can pretty much just take a picture, a Word document, an Excel document, and add it in here. And once one of these has been added, the users that have access to this reconciliation will be able to see the document once they click this little page button in here. So if we scroll a little bit down below, I have my certification statement, and I also have an optional checklist. So that means that if you already have a checklist, you can easily integrate it in here. And as you can see, it is point based. So we can set different point values to the depending on how important each of these statements are. And I have a section to add a comment in here. Just going to say that it's okay, or I can just not add a comment in here. But the important thing is in here is that you can just customize how this specific checklist will look. And this checklist in particular is only related to the preparers. So we can have a specific checklist for preparers. We can have a different one for the approvers, and we can have a third one for the reviewers. So if you need to have 3 different checklists within one reconciliation, it can also be done. And once the preparer pretty much just checks all of the ones that apply to this reconciliation, they will have their certification statement right here, which pretty much just says, yes, I did everything. I identified all of my required adjustments. I updated everything as it was needed. And pretty much it just counts as their signature. So as a preparer down below, I get the option to certify this reconciliation. And what the certification means is that it's pretty much just signing my reconciliation. So if I click the certify button, just click it. This means that as a preparer, I pretty much completed the entire process of preparing a reconciliation. And as you can see, this account all changed from being rejected at one time to being prepared within the system. So right now, as a preparer, I don't have to worry about this account. I can just go ahead and continue with the rest of my accounts. But as you saw, there's a preparer, an approver, and a reviewer for each account. So I am going to switch my view real quickly to another user. Okay. So in here, I switched to my user Pat Black. And as you can see, this one is not a preparer. This one is an approver within Blackline. And this user just happens to be. We're going to take a look at another account and other functionality that we can do as an approver. So in this case, as an approver within Blackline, you can see that I also have a very, very similar dashboard, uh, just like we saw on the preparer. But in this case, what I want to do is that I want to see which accounts have been prepared so I can go ahead and certify them. So I'm going to drill down into this one, and that one in there actually means that it's a group account. Actually, I didn't refresh it. It was supposed to be two. So in this case, I am going to enter this specific reconciliation as an approver. And as you can see, as an approver, this is a totally different account, but I just wanted to show you a little bit more of functionality that we can do in here. This one is actually an intercompany group. So that means that we can have group accounts within the system. So in here, you can see this is no longer a bank account. So, but you can see that we can multiple accounts into one reconciliation. So this one just happens to be an intercompany group, but we can have receivables groups, we can have bank groups. Pretty much we can have different categories of Blackline. So what Blackline will do is that with these accounts, with these accounts, when we group them, it will net the GL balance of these accounts. And as you can see, the GL balance of these two accounts is this amount right here. And the user would only have to prepare the reconciliation based on the net balance of all of the accounts within this group. So we can have accounts with up to 500 accounts per group. So that's normally I don't see that groups that big, but just know that we have the capability to have up to 500 accounts within the one group. And what the user would do is that they would just set up the items just like you saw with the other reconciliation. But as an approver, I only get the option to see these items. I can't add an item. I can't edit these amounts. I only get a view of these items. But as an approver, I can add a comment or a specific supporting document if needed. I also get a different checklist in here, so I can pretty much check all of that apply. I get my little comment box for this checklist in here, and in here the certification language is a little bit different, but it's because it's in different languages. But the most important part in here is that as an approver, I get two options. So I can either certify an account or I can reject an account. So if I were to certify this account, this would pretty much just complete the entire process because this specific account does not have a reviewer. The reviewer role right now is optional, and if I certify, this would pretty much just complete the entire process, and I can just continue going on and approve all of or reject all of the accounts that I have assigned. But if I were to reject it, then this account would go back to the preparer, and I can also set up a little email where I can explain to the preparer why I'm rejecting it. So in this case, I'm going to reject this account. So I click the reject button. And as you can see, this automatically opens a window where I can notify Kim Wilson, which is my preparer, via email why I am actually rejecting this account. So that way the preparer will get the notification via email and why this account was rejected. So then once again, the preparer will get access to this specific account and they can just fix whatever happened, and they can go through the entire workflow once again. So as you can see, since right now I have this filtered under my prepared ones, you can see that my rejected number has gone up because I have actually rejected some of those accounts. So I am going to switch back to my user Kim right here. Right now I am back as a preparer. So in this case, Kim will receive an email, and then Kim can just go ahead and look for this account, fix whatever's wrong with it, and then they can certify it once again. So this pretty much just covers the entire workflow. This is very high level. We're not going into that much of a detail. But basically, what the account reconciliation module does is that it provides standardization across pretty much the entire reconciliation process, and therefore we can improve the quality and the accuracy of all of the information that I'm inputting into the system. And this way, we can reduce errors, inaccuracies, and with all the types of automations that we can, for example, with the auto certifications. Uh, this way make sure that the accountants will be able to focus on analyzing reconciliations rather than doing different types of repetitive in the system. So right now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to switch to my next module, which is my task management module. I'm going to go into products.
Okay.
Okay, so we completed the account reconciliation. I'm going to switch now to the task management module. I'm going to see my task progress. And as you can see, pretty much all modules have a very similar layout. So I always say that once a user gets to know one of these modules quite well, then the other ones, they will be a lot easier to learn because the layouts and the templates are very intuitive. So in here, the Blackline Task Management module, this pretty much just provides a platform that centralizes all of my accounting and finance tasks. Pretty much all of this is making use of a hierarchical task list where we can input the workflows again to control all of the processes. So in this module, we can set up cross-product task dependencies. So we can make a task dependent on another task, or we can set up a task that's dependent on the certification of an account reconciliation. So we have cross products. Also have the certifications available in here. We also have the email notifications, and pretty much what all of these does is that it ensures that all of these tasks are assigned, that they are communicated within the company, and that they are actually achieved during the time that they're due. So in this case, you can see that I have a view where I can see who is the person that approves my task. I have different segments in here which can be customized to your company. I have a description of this task. I have the due days where I have to complete this task, and in here it tells me the date where I have to complete this task. So I think I'm a little bit way overdue for this task because it's for 2013. We're still gonna go with it anyways. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go into one of these tasks. I'm gonna click the edit button. And once again, you can see that it's a very similar template to what we just saw with the accounts reconciliation. So the main difference in here is that if I also have vision of my details, but I have the purpose and the instructions right on the face of my task. So there should be no confusion for these tasks because everything is pretty much just detailed out in the face of your task. So once Prepare has pretty much just made completed the task outside of Blackline. Let it be that they have to run a report, they have to do a manual entry, whatever the task is, they can go ahead and document this task. They can add comments, they can add documents. So for example, if this task were to be, just run a specific report, they can add this report if they want. They can just add it in here. They can even add hyperlinks. So this is optional right here, but they can add hyperlinks. And another thing that we have is that the preparer can actually put an actual completion time. So if this task needs 5 hours to this task took me 5 hours to do, I can put it in here in my actual completion, and I can compare these actual completion times with an estimated. So in this case, it gives you a little bit more options of customization, and this way you can also compare what the time it takes to actually do the work versus another estimated time, and therefore you can adjust on either side. I also have my certification statement in here, and I also get the option to have certification reasons. So if, for example, this were part of a dependency structure. And if I were to be late because any of the other tasks were not completed in time, I can just check one of these options. So I can say that this task is done, but it was delayed due to a dependency. Oh, this task is completed and passed. So in this case, I get the option to select one of these reasons. It's also an optional feature, so you can set it up if you want. But I get the option to certify this task. So once again, as a preparer, I completed this task. I added my supporting documentation, any type of comment that I needed, and I get to click the certify button because it's completely done right now.
Hi, Francis.
Yes.
The actual completion time is calculated by the system
The actual
based on
complete.
based on when you certify that it has been completed.
No, in this case, when we upload information into Blackline, we have some templates. We provide some Excel templates, and these templates actually have a column for setting up these tasks. One column is called estimated time. So
Okay.
what it does is that when you are defining these tasks, you also define your estimated completion time within Blackline.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The actual time is actually input by the preparer because
Okay.
yeah, in this case it's done that way because it can take me, let's say, 6-7 hours to complete a process, but when I'm documenting it on Blackline, it only takes me like 3 minutes to go into the task and upload my documentation and certify it. So Blackline will not be able to take into consideration, hey, it took this person 6 hours, but it took them 3 minutes to complete it in Blackline. So the user would actually have to input that the time it took them to realize that task in that space. And
Okay.
once that information is within Blackline, you get to have reporting capabilities on those times. So you can pretty much just evaluate performance with that. Okay? So in this case, I have this module set up so that when I certify a task, I can send an email to the next person within the workflow. So I can pretty much just set up uh, those alerts on an individual basis, or I can just set them up, to the entire company, where it will send them, let's say, a summarized daily email or a weekly email alert, and it will tell them, hey, you have all of these pending tasks, or pretty much everything that's pending within the system can be sent via an alert. In this case, I'm not going to send the email, but just so you can see, it prompts me here the little window. So in this case, you can see that we actually went into this specific task, and my status bar in here changed from being blank to the letter P, which means that it has been prepared. So remember that I mentioned also that we have dependencies. If we go into this little upside down fork, it's actually supposed to be a little hierarchical structure, but it's very tiny. So if I go in there, Sorry. If I go in there, let me go ahead and hide some of these. You can see that I have a structure set up for these set of tasks. So this pretty much, we can identify the order in which we need to perform all of these tasks. So you can see that I will not be able to certify the higher level task uh, if the lower level tasks are not certified within the system. So I can pretty much just set up these tasks to be dependent upon other tasks, where I can set it up for these tasks to be dependent upon the certification of an account reconciliation. So pretty much I mostly see that, for example, with tasks that have to do with manual entries. So you wouldn't want to be able to certify a task with a manual entry unless you actually create the manual entry within the reconciliation, and pretty much just tie those two. So we can be very very specific with these dependencies in here. So I'm gonna go back. Okay. Okay, so this pretty much, once again, I did not go into the approver point of view, but you can see that this pretty much just covers the main essence of this module. So we do get the cross dependencies within the system. We also get the workflows defined within the system. We get a specific template for these tasks, and most important of all, we get pretty much everything is centralized in the system. So all of these tasks, pretty much everything that you see within Blackline, is something that you can run a report against. Okay, so now I'm gonna go by real quickly to my matching module. Give me a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the matching module. And the matching module, pretty much what it provides you is that it provides you with the capability of uploading multiple data sources. And once you upload these data sources, you can either you can set up a set of rules that will compare these data sources. So you can have Blackline compare a data source against itself. You can have a comparison between two data sources, or you can have up to a three-way matching. So in this case, I'm gonna go into my match sets within Blackline, and once again, these data sources can be manually imported by the user, or they can be automated within the system. So again, by using the FTP folder that we talked about, we can set up a process where Blackline will take those data sources and automatically import them into Blackline. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to see one of these match sets, and we're going to see real quickly components of this match set. So in this case, this is a bank. This is a daily reconciliation, and we are comparing bank transactions versus GL transactions. So in this case, you can see that in here I have my bank transaction, my GL transactions, and this is my bank transactions. So in this case, I am comparing two data sources. If I go down below, I have all of my different rules set up in here. So these rules will pretty much are highly customizable, and they can actually be set up by the preparer. So the IT department, for example, doesn't need to be involved in the creation of these rules, and it's actually very intuitive for preparers, so they can take control of this module and pretty much just set it up however they need. So in this case, we can set up rules that, for example, will compare one transaction to one transaction. So it's a one-to-one match. In here, we have that's comparing one to any other transactions. And we can also set up rules where it can compare many transactions against any other transactions. So we have one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many transactions. We also have automatic rules and suggested rules. So in this case, if I were to go up here, they're actually divided into two different buckets. Once we have the data sources, what we do is that we run the matching engine using this button. And once the matching engine runs, it can actually take between a few seconds to a few minutes to just run this entire process across, thousands or millions of transactions. So in this case, I do have two different buckets. I have my automatic matches and I have my suggested matches. So the difference in here is that my suggested matches are my less specific matches, and these in here would actually need to be approved by a preparer. Where the automatic ones, these are the more specific matches, and these actually don't have to be approved. But in this case, I'm going to go into my automatic matches and I'm going to filter by one of these. So you can see these are actually wire transfers. And if I were to look into one of these matches, into the detail, you will see in here that I have 4 transactions on my GL file and I have 1 transaction on my bank file. And as you can see, what this specific rule is doing is that it's taking transactions from a very, very close transaction date range, but the amount is actually an exact match. So in this case, since I already know my process, I already know that this is going to work 100% of the time. Um, so that's why I set up this as an automatic rule. So we can pretty much just filter these rules, but the best way that we're going to get best results is when we have a specific identifier. So if, for example, we have a document number, if we have a reference number, a journal ID, something that makes my transaction unique, that's what's going to help this module a lot more, because we are pretty much, there's no way that we can if we have a specific identifier, there's no way that we can have that many variables within the comparisons. So in this case, once again, this was a very high level overview of the system, covering pretty much from the preparer to the approver roles. There's a lot more functionality that we can cover. For example, what Edgar was telling you at the beginning is that we usually do these demos with either the point of view of the preparer and the approver, but we've also done some from a CFO point of view. So in this case, this pretty much concludes the entire demo. So if you have any questions, just let us know.